So glad to have you here with us today. Emily has dropped the home-based document in the chat, and that's where you can find all the resources that we will be sharing today. Hi, Rudy. Glad to see you here. We're going to take a few more minutes and let people join in as they trickle in, and then we'll jump in and get started. Just about one more minute. Hi, Emily. Welcome. Emily just started our UDL AT Open Access Content Lead, has dropped our home-based document in the chat. This is where we will share all of our resources for today, so please feel free to access it. Closed captioning is also available and enabled on Zoom. If you need help using it, please let us know. All right, glad to see lots of people are joining us for today. Thank you, Emily, for dropping the home base in. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody today to our Inclusive Learning Circle, fostering synergy between UDL, AT, and AAC. And today's topic is AT for executive function. So I hope you're here for the right presentation. And if you're not, please stay and hang out with us. If you follow the QR code and the tiny URL link on the slide deck, or they're going to be dropped in the chat as well, you can access our home-based document, and that's where you'll find all of our resources that we'll be talking about today, as well as our slide deck. Hi guys, I see a couple of people joining us. Welcome, welcome. We're dropping the home base in the chat. The session will be recorded, and we hope to have a fun one and probably fast hour with you all. So we're going to go over some housekeeping things. And we always like to start out with our open access accessibility promise. You know, here at Open Access, we're really committed to UDL principle and making our presentation as accessible as possible. Some of the strategies that you may notice today will be that we'll have simple background with high contrast text. We try to provide digital and printed materials whenever possible. Our slide deck is really easily accessible through the tiny URL or QR code. There's alt text for all of our images if you're utilizing a screen reader. We try to share examples and non-examples to clarify content and concept. And then lastly, we really love your participation and feedback. And we kind of will do that through kind of chatting through the time together, getting your feedback, and we love participation. So please don't be shy. Feel free to drop things in the chat or share aloud. For those of you that have joined our ILC before or any of the open access training, a couple of these slides will be redundant, but bear with us. But we like to let people know about who we are here at Open Access. Open Access is one of the statewide special education resource lead within the statewide system of support. I'm really grounded in the foundational belief that with access to quality instruction, all of our students can engage, actively participate, and learn with inclusive settings. What makes our project really unique is that we highlight the importance of learning and participation for all through universal design for learning, assistive technology, and augmentative and alternative communication. So please bookmark our website to easily access many of our free universal resources. And then you can also click on the flyer that details our three-tiered approach to assisting LEAs and SELPA statewide. And again, on our resource pages, this is our website, our open access website, and then the QR link will take you to our home-based document. Okay, I would like to introduce the amazing presenter I have with us joining today. Lisa Foote is an occupational therapist and AT-AAC specialist with Santa Barbara County SELPA. And I'm Mimi Zimlik. I'm one of the UDL AT content lead with the Open Access Project. And I want to welcome and thank you all for being here today. Okay, let's start off today. Thank you, Leah and Lori, for and everybody for dropping the home-based document. I love it. We always like to start our sessions with what we call an inclusive welcome. Just a great time to stay connected, to see who's in the room with us. So we would love to see who is here in the room today with us. So please introduce yourself in the chat or sharing aloud, your name, your location, and your role. And then when you're done, I want you to do something for me. I want you to take a 2-minute brain dump. take a moment to jot down everything currently on your mind. It could be work related, it could be home, it could be that grocery list that's been nagging you, whatever is calling to you at that moment. And you can use a digital or physical post-it note or set a reminder on your phone. So whatever speaks to you. So I'll give a couple of minutes to introduce yourself and then the 2-minute brain dump. Love it. I'm seeing a range of different educators and specialists that are joining us today and bringing information back to your organization, and I love it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start a timer for our 2-minute brain dump. Please go ahead and do that right now. For those of you that have just joined us, we're doing a quick introduction about your name, your location, your role, and then a quick 2-minute brain dump of whatever is on your mind, either digitally or on a physical post-it note, whatever is calling to you at that moment. I love that some folks are choosing the chat option to kind of share what's on their mind. Keep going, love it. We have about 30 more seconds for your brain dump. All right. Thank you for everybody for the introduction and sharing some of your brain dump. I see we have somebody from Tennessee. Welcome to, is it Talia? Am I saying that correctly? Welcome,
It's Talia.
Talia. Thank you for being here. So I want to know, I'll let you know, did you know that what I just had you guys do is actually an executive functioning strategy? It's getting things out of your head and making it visible. So love to hear how was that for you? And you guys share aloud or in the chat.
I I could share aloud. I I recently picked up like a little like mini notebook. So I know we all have like digital and phones and but I'm still like tactile. I need to have like a physical something. But I write all these little post-it notes and they just end up everywhere. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stick with one little notebook and any thought I have, I'll just dump it in here and then I'll deal with it later. Or
Awesome.
or I find that as soon as I jotted it down, I find myself taking care of it for some reason. So anyway.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing, Rudy. A couple of chats in there saying it helps them focus. It's a great way to get started on activities, make a list of brain dump. Oh, I love it. Leah also says, love the little notebook and crossing things. That is so satisfying to be able to cross things off a list. And Jordan said, helping clear the brain. Wonderful. I'm glad that you guys are utilizing this strategy and sharing some of what you've been doing with it. So a quick overview of what our goal will be for today. It's today we're going to create a shared understanding of how assistive technology can support executive functioning. And then we'll explore a continuum of strategies and tools that can strengthen planning, organization, and task management process. And then at the end, just kind of making a commitment about one actionable step that we can use this in the classroom that we're in or the educators that we're supporting. So that's a quick overview of our learning goals for today. Here's another way of looking at kind of the path we're going to be taking for today. We'll start off, like I said, creating a shared understanding of executive functioning, just some brief overview, talking about how environmental design can affect executive functioning. And then we'll jump into some tool exploration. If you've been to some of our ILCs, you'll notice that we really want to look at the range of continuum of tools, right? Not just the digital high-tech tool, but we'll be starting off by exploring some no and low-tech tool, and then jumping into two digital tools that Lisa's going to go deeper into, an Ace Your Time Chrome extension and then ClassKick. So if you are new to those, great, I'm so excited. And then if you are familiar with some of these tools, please share your experience with them as well. And then we'll kind of end our time together with question and answer, reflection, and some closing. Okay, so let's jump in. What is executive functioning? Executive functioning really refers to mental processes that help us plan, focus, remember, and take care of tasks. The mental skills really include some key components like inhibition, when to stop or pause some impulses, shifting, going between task or perspective, using that working memory, holding something in our brain, and then manipulating the information in our mind. And then the last part, some planning and organization, right? About things about setting goals, sequencing steps, and then monitoring our progress as we plan all of that out. So think of these skills as kind of like our management system of our mind. How do we steer attention, behavior, and emotion towards a goal? So one of the important shift in thinking is about can we externalize these processes for our students. So instead of expecting kind of our kiddos to hold everything in their head, think of providing support like checklists, visual schedule, or timers that can make that thinking process visible. Another key important idea is habits and routines matter. When students consistently use tools and systems, they begin to rely less on kind of those adult prompts and build more independence over time. And in the end, that's what we want for all of our students. If you're interested, we're going to drop a link in the chat that's called Executive Functioning Quick Guide. It kind of goes over a little bit details about executive functioning. So if you want to dive deeper after the webinar, feel free to do that. And it's also located on our home-based document. Okay, so now I know that was a really quick overview, but I know many of you are also well versed in executive functioning. So just a quick shared understanding. Kind of the next thing we want to look at, okay, what does it look like in our learners? When students struggle with executive functioning, it doesn't always look the way we expect. We might see difficulty starting or finishing a task. Kiddos may lose materials or forget directions. Time management and prioritizing can also be really challenging. And unfortunately, sometimes that gets misinterpreted as like lack of motivation, a quote unquote a student being lazy, things like that. But often the issue is that the planning demands are so overwhelming that our students shut down. So a really helpful way to think about this is if a student doesn't know how to start something or organize or manage the tasks, um, how can we avoid, how can we support them so that they don't shut down or try to avoid the task? So instead of asking, why aren't they doing this? Maybe we can ask, okay, what part of that process is needing more support? Or what part of that is the pinch point or the stuck point for our student? If you want to dive deeper, understood.org has a really great article describing what executive functioning can look like at a different age range. They kind of break it down by preschool, elementary, middle, and high school level. And it's a great tool to kind of share with others or dive deeper in for yourself. I've dropped it into the chat. And then a second thing I want to call out is I recently was part of an inclusive workshop group that happened to be talking about executive functioning, and it was great timing for our ILC today. But they're doing a three-part series, a book study for executive functioning. It's actually one of our statewide system of supporting innovative practices. So they're doing this book study that dives into executive functioning. So if you're interested in that, I dropped the chat in there as well. So something to further kind of deepen your understanding of executive functioning and what that looks like in the classroom and across the age range. So some additional resource for you to play with. Okay, so before we jump into tools, it's really important to think about environmental design. And we have to understand that executive functioning isn't just about a student's skill. It can be heavily influenced by the environment around them. So simple changes can really make a big difference for our students and even for us adult learners too. So things like clear and consistent routines can help learners know what to expect without having to figure it out each time, right? Every time they're having to maybe think about things again and again, it resets their brain. And so when we have clear and consistent routines, that kind of helps lower the cognitive load. Things, visual supports like schedules or step-by-step direction, reduce the need to remember multi-steps directions. Also, things like reducing clutter and organizing materials can also lower that cognitive load for our students. So when everything has a place and it's easy to find, students really spend less energy, right, managing the materials. This also applies to kind of visual environment. I found this really cool stat research that shows that when classrooms are really overly busy or decorated, it can actually interfere with students' attention and memory. Maybe some of us may intuitively already know that, and kind of research supports that. A helpful guidance is that classrooms should feel really engaging, right? But not overwhelming. And that balance looks like about having 20 to 50% of wall space kept clear. So this doesn't mean that we're having bare walls or a sterile classroom environment, but being really intentional about what's being displayed so students don't have to spend that energy filtering out unnecessary distraction. So I thought that was a great stats to know about. And then finally, building in time cues and transition like countdowns or warnings, that really helps students shift between tasks much more smoothly. So the idea is really to think about the design of our environment so that it naturally supports executive functioning, rather relying only on the students having to manage it independently. Um, I'm going to link another article that's on Edutopia that has some strategy how to support executive function in the classroom. It's also on your home-based document as well. Welcome to
Um,
all the newcomers that have chimed in. Go ahead, Lisa.
I was going to say, I have a nice little anecdote that goes with what you just said. I was
Okay.
recently talking to a friend who is changing jobs, and she's a high school teacher, but now she's going to go work in preschool, to 8, Spanish kind of immersion stuff. And so she went to shadow the teacher she's replacing, and she's like, oh my gosh, this teacher has gotten it all down to the science, and she does everything with drum beats and rhythms. So the students are have been trained to be like, when this drum beat is sounding, it means, this transition or that transition. And I was like, that's pretty amazing. She's like, it was really amazing to see. So it's not even talking to kids or visual. It's just like, let's just tune in auditorily. And this is your cue of what's going to happen.
I know thank you for sharing that. What a great option for our students, right? We're giving them multiple ways to kind of think about transition and supporting them along the way. Thank you for sharing that, Lisa. Right. Ooh, Rudy shared that he saw a teacher using 80s TV show intros to single transition. That's making it really fun too. I love that. Right. Okay. So before we jump into kind of Lisa sharing some of the digital tools, I want to talk about some simple low-tech tools that really directly support executive functioning. And the key idea is that we're trying to make thinking visible, right? And making it manageable. So just these are some simple ones. It's probably things that you may already be using or employing, but it's worth revisiting. So we always kind of put in our foremind that, hey, let's start simple. Let's start with what we already have and see what the impact can be for that. So for organization, tools like an adaptive binder or a planner or even that accordion type binder that I've shown, they're really great at giving students structure. I know I even had one. Emily was so great. When we started the beginning year, she gave me this accordion folder and I was able to kind of, when we go out to training with people, I could kind of put all of my resources and it was such a great place to just be able to pull it open and kind of give myself structure. So even we as adults utilize that. But even something as simple as like color coding can really make a big difference. That visual cues can kind of help prime our brain, prime the student's brain and say, oh, that green color was for science or that red one was for English. Kind of gets their mind ready for the task. For task completion, checklists are so incredibly effective. They break tasks into smaller steps so that students can get started and, track their progress. Okay, where do I start? And which part have I done? Where am I in this whole task process? That can be really powerful. And then sticky notes. You can do like 101 things with them. But they're really just quick, flexible reminders so that we're not being the adult that needs to constantly remind our student. We can kind of put that ownership on the student and use something simple like a sticky note. For planning, graphic organizer and visual schedules really help students kind of map out their thinking and seeing what's coming next. So those are some great tools as well. And then for timer, some of our kiddos really need the support of a visual timer and even chunking strategies to help them better understand how to manage a long task. Lisa is going to dive deeper into this later and show you a Chrome extension that can help with this if we're going the route of like a digital tools. What's really powerful about these no and low tech tools is that they're low prep. They're flexible and they're usually easy to implement, right? But they directly target the areas where students often struggle. So I'm going to talk about some resources that I'm going to link in the chat, but it's also on your home-based document. The first one is here's some printable graphic organizer, no low tech that we can share with our students, and that link will have lots of different ones. And then I also want to share an upcoming webinar that Open Access will be having. We're doing a collaboration with NerdChat, and they have this great tool that makes a visual schedule and checklist super easy. You can create these in seconds. So if you're interested in that, one's coming up in May, please feel free to join us for that. And then lastly, our Open Access Flip Kit. That has a wealth of knowledge specific to executive function. You just kind of have to pull down the executive functioning strand and it can give you some extra ideas to explore as well. Okay, that is enough of me talking. I'm going to turn it over to the lovely Lisa, and she's going to share some of the digital tools with us.
Okay. So yes, executive functioning is very nuanced and there's so much going on with it. It's a lot. So, but we're just going to break down one little thing today. So this company that I just discovered is called Cognitive Connections. They're based in Massachusetts. They have a bunch of it's done by speech therapists, occupational therapists, and special educators. And their goal is, teaching executive functioning skills through curriculum and tools and coaching and all those kinds of services. So, a friend, how did I find this? Oh, because I joined my AOTA, American OT Conference, a little special interest group of OTs that are school-based, practiced, and focused in AT. And so one of the OTs said, "Oh, this is, I work in a private school all for kids with learning disabilities, and this is what we follow." And I said, "Okay, let me go look at this." So I had never seen it before, and then I looked at it and I said, "Oh, and they even say they have a Chrome extension. What could this be?" So the what ACE it's called ACE Your Time Extension, and as you can see there, what does that stand for? ACE Your Time. So these would be things that we all have to do, whether we put it in a calendar or not. So their appointments, their activities, their assignments, their chill time, and their extra time. And I don't know about you guys, but when you want to do something, you're not quite ready. Like maybe I just need a little time to like space out before I'm ready to do it. I know that I kind of need a little time to decompress from whatever I was just doing, or I just get to the classroom, or I just get home and I just want to lay on the couch and literally space out before I have to do the next thing, things like that. And extra time. Extra time would mean, well, what happens if this happens and it will take more time? What are these indicators that something might happen that will mess with my schedule and mess with my time? So those are the basic concepts of the ACE. And so kind of what you'll see in the demo video, but one would be like, it usually takes me 30 minutes to get home. But what if there's, traffic, then it kind of takes 45 minutes. So maybe I should build in a buffer of 15 minutes that is going to actually go into this schedule. So what that looks like is all these kind of different things that they have. So it integrates into your Google Calendar, it integrates into your Outlook calendar on, the browsers. So you're adding extra before and after time to events. It then gives you a visual of like realistically what are all the things you're going to have to be doing before and after this task. It's very easy to use. Mimi and I, when we were talking about this and looking at the video, we're like, we already do that in our head. I'm always counting backwards and counting forwards to see when I really have to leave or how long something will take. But that's all in our heads. We've had many years of, having to function as adults and have jobs and take care of our families and things like that. It's just kind of automatic. How do we make that visual for students? Often I'll be talking to students and, they maybe can't even, they'll say, oh, everything's in my head anyway. It's just in my head. I don't need to put it anywhere. And maybe that's the case, but yet they're not quite able to do something. So again, it's like, what is the part of that task that is the stalling point? Maybe it's okay for that student to do 9 out of 10 parts of this task in their mind, but one of the parts of the task, where does that? And maybe we need to make that visual. And oftentimes, we know with ADHD, there's lots of time blindness, not understanding time or getting lost in time when we're in a flow or getting bogged down by time when we don't want to do something. So this is just one little sliver of trying to figure out how time works, what really happens when you come into the classroom or what really happens when you go home. I don't know. I just eat a snack. Well, no, what do you actually do? So it's first you're talking through what they might do, and then you work on scheduling those things with the app. So let me show you what this looks like. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, and so we'll watch this. This is a great video, very easy to use.
So the first thing you're going to do here is go to the Chrome web store and enter Ace Your Time, and that will take you to the Chrome extension. You want to open that and go ahead and select and click Add to Chrome, and then Add Extension. You'll then need to click the puzzle piece, click the pin to make it active. You'll want to go ahead and select the extension icon, and this will take you to the Sign In with Google menu. When you do this, go ahead and enter your email that you use with your Google Calendar, and of course your password. And once you've done this, this screen will appear. And it's very important you click the box in the upper right-hand corner. That will allow the Ace Your Time extension to add events to both your calendar as well as your mobile device calendar. Once you've completed that, now you want to go ahead and open up your actual calendar. Once you're in your calendar, here's where you can go ahead and click to enter an event. So let's say that I have an interview. I can click interview and save. Click the event again and then the edit pencil. This will then show the Ace Your Time appearing at the top of your screen. Click Ace Your Time and the menu of the activities or the extras that go with an event before or after appear. So I can select that I need 15 minutes to get ready. Maybe I need 30 minutes to commute if there's no traffic, and I will need to arrive earlier to be able to find parking and get in. Then maybe the interview will go a little later than I expected. I have to commute home, which again will be 30 minutes, and I'm not anticipating traffic. And as soon as I get home, I want a chance to shift gears, and I should probably follow up with that interview and maybe send an email, text, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click Add Events. You'll see that it's thinking for just a moment, and then the events will be created. Once the events are created, you'll need to click Save. So I'm going to click Save here. You'll notice that sometimes it takes a moment for those events to populate. If they aren't appearing immediately on your calendar, just click refresh on your screen and immediately those events will appear. So I can now see that even though my interview is anticipated from 11 to 12, the reality is I need to start getting ready at 10 to allow time for me to commute there, find parking, get in. And then even though I might end at noon, I am going to expect that it could go a little bit later, that it'll take me another half hour to commute home. And by the time I shift gears and send that email, I may not be ready for my next event until sometime after 1 o'clock. Should the event change, and let's say that all of a sudden the interview gets changed to Wednesday, if I now drag this down to 2 o'clock here, it may look like all of these remain here. Again, it can take a minute to sort of populate the calendar. So if you click refresh, it will carry all of those events to the new date and time so that you don't have to go back and delete and then re-enter all of those events. Should you need to delete the event, so I'll click this and go ahead and hit delete, it too will delete all of those extras that are there. Again, it might take a moment and you may need to refresh your screen. But it's a fantastic way to really develop students' ability to ace your time and practice. I can go ahead and click save. Let's say that practice is going to go from 11 to 1 o'clock and I hit save. But it's not just that I have practice at 11. So if I click this, the edit pencil, ace your time, I definitely going to need to get ready. Maybe I only need 15 minutes to commute there, but I do need to arrive earlier to practice to have time to get settled. Maybe go to the bathroom, change my clothes, etc. Practice might go a little bit later. I will need to commute home. And as soon as I get home, I'm definitely going to need to put away all of my materials and everything, put my dirty clothes into the laundry, etc. And I'll probably, maybe I even want to take 30 minutes to shift gears when I get home. I click add events and it will think on it a little bit. It will add those events and then you need to hit save. And just that reminder that when you hit save, it may take a moment for those events to be added. And if they're not there right away, simply click refresh and you are good to go. And the best part about it is that these will also appear on your mobile device so that students can ace their time and be on time by anticipating all of those extras that go with typical activities.
So very simple and easy to use. Most of us, even teaching a student to just use their Google Calendar is one thing, but then adding that extra layer on what else might be happening before and after. Yeah, it's great. I thought it was great. It's easy to use. It helps us as adults. It can help the kids, and it's something tangible that pretty much everybody has access to, anywhere, on their computer at school or an iPad. So anyway, check that out. It's free and easy to use.
And then
But any,
the home base, the extensions on the home base document. So if you need access, go ahead and do that. And then when we were playing with this, Lisa also found that they have this timer called 360 Thinking Timer Tracker that's on their website. So you can use that on like a iPad or Apple Watch. So that's interesting. Tracy, that's a really good question about privacy. Can you share a little bit what you mean?
So it looks like it's blocked for me. It has to go through a vetting process for us to use it. So for all students, when we add extensions, they have, especially new extensions, they need to be vetted. So it sounds like you're already using it at your school, Lisa. So did it obviously passed student privacy?
no, I just have downloaded and started using it myself
Oh,
because I
okay.
don't have any privacy position. So, thank you for bringing that up. It's a good point.
Just wondering because
Yeah, I would assume that it would be vetted for that, but yeah, you would, just like anywhere, you would have to vet it and know that it was, that the privacy settings were in place. So no, I've just kind of used it personally to try it out.
okay, thanks.
Yeah, the 360. So as you can see in that video, this is really a Google Calendar base. It's adding those little extra times. The 360 time tracker is giving students a clock. So we're all used to time timers. This clock is 3 colors, and then it kind of has the same screen that comes up as you just saw with the calendar, but instead it's just you're putting minutes there, and then the timer populates into how much time you said that you needed for, shifting gears, and how much time you think you're going to take for working, and how much time you think it's going to wind down. But it's all kind of 3 colors in one of those in a visual timer. So yeah, so that is $2.99, I think, on the App Store. Again, you'd have to make sure that you could vet that and have it be accessible if students are on iPads. I'm not sure. My one question was, okay, well, if you have this on your iPad, could you use it? It doesn't seem like it would actually go with if you were on an iPad actually using the Apple Calendar, it doesn't seem like it might actually flow with that. So really it's Google or Outlook or just sitting there as an app, overlaying other apps. So that's just one little thing. How do we try to teach time, not even time management, just time visualization, right? Again, like it's really hard sometimes when you have executive functioning issues to even figure out how much time something might take in the first place. So, but having that feedback of the visual might help, it helps you over and over. Okay, that did take this much time. Did that feel good to you? I could use a little bit more time. So then the next time you go to plan it, you could add those minutes to that chunk of the task. So that's kind of that was a time management one. This next one's called Class Kick. And this was brought to my attention actually by an elementary school teacher. We were discussing Kami and, did they like Kami? How is Kami working for them? All the tools of Kami. And the teacher was like, oh, well, Kami's okay, but I really like Class Kick. And I was like, well, what's Class Kick? And essentially it's just a similar kind of app as Kami or Notability, things like that. Like here's your document and you can write on it and draw on it, and teachers can make their own workflow and make their own materials on it. But it also supports other parts of executive functioning. And the main draw is that it can be interactive. The teacher can actually see everybody working at the same time. Students can be working together on things and, getting real-time feedback, as you're walking around, or maybe you have to work with one student, but you can quickly see what everybody else is doing at a glance and give input as you can in real time. So other parts of Class Kick that would support executive functioning are that it can help the teacher break the assignments into slides and pages and make things feel smaller and more manageable, like just pieces. It's not looking at a whole worksheet. It's just, the screen flashes and the next problem comes on. It also can help with focus and attention. So they're just working on one screen at a time. They're just, working one or two things at a time on that screen, and they scroll through. So it's not too much stuff on a page, so reducing all that visual overload and like, oh my gosh, how much do I have to do? It gives the immediate support. The students can actually request help without stopping the whole class. So like, oh, like maybe somebody's working ahead and they're like, I got all this done except this, but I can raise my hand, I can ask a question, I can write a note to the teacher, they can write a note back, and I might be able to keep going with my workflow and got the input while the teacher's still maybe helping people in person. So it's also, just like as Kami would be, can integrate into your Google Classroom. The work is digital. You can get back to it and see it. And basically, students obviously can move through those tasks at the appropriate pace while everybody monitors progress. So she basically said, I really like this because it really does allow the collaboration in real time. It really allows me to see what's happening, give input. I can have students work collaboratively together and help each other. So it's just kind of adding that digital access and able to collaborate for kids. So let me see. Here we have, so basically it's kind of just what I said, right? Class-wide. Oh, and it's supported, as you can see, supported on those places and not supported. Next slide. And here's our video. So they have a YouTube channel with many videos, but I really wanted to pick two different videos to show, one from the student angle and one from the teacher angle. So thinking of student-centered, let's just watch what the students would be experiencing when they would use this.
Hey, welcome to ClassKick. ClassKick is a tool to help you show your teacher what you know and get help when you need it. Your teacher will set up an assignment and make questions for you to complete. Log in with your class code and you'll be able to draw, type, add images, audio, or links to answer all the questions. Need to undo while you're working? Tap here. Whoops, need it back? Tap here to redo. Need more room? Use this scroll bar to scroll down the page. If you need help while you are working, you can raise your hand to get help or to be checked. And if your teacher turns on student helpers, you can help your classmates too. The best part is this: your teacher and your classmates can give you that help right when you need it. When you receive a grade on a question, you'll see it here. If you get help on another page, tap here to see it. Or if you want to hide the feedback while you're working, tap here. You can share the work you're doing with your family by tapping here to send the link to your work. We hope you love using ClassKick. Have fun!
So that's what the students will be doing on iPads. That's what their workflow would look like. And then we can see how the teacher would do this on the back end. How do they create things?
Welcome to Ms. K's class. The teacher is happy and her students feel successful. But it wasn't always like this. Welcome to Ms. K's class. The teacher is happy and her students feel successful. But it wasn't always like this. Ms. K used to struggle with paper assignments: print, copy, pass out, collect, grade, and hand back. In class, she could only help one person at a time, and this meant that she didn't know how the rest of her students were doing, especially the ones too shy to raise hands. Ms. K couldn't stand to leave students hanging, so she started using ClassKick to give them instant feedback. Now she can prep any kind of assignment all without paper, using her own worksheets, new web content, or embedded audio and video. When it's time to work, Ms. K sees every student, and each of them gets to go at their own pace. When needed, students can raise their hand privately. Ms. K jumps straight into this question to give feedback. Students see this help instantly and keep working. Even better, teachers can allow students to help each other. Using ClassKick, students get feedback like never before, from their teacher, from each other, both in class or at home. Get it for free at getclasskick.com.
So again, I have not been able to access myself because I don't work in a school, but I do know that some school districts are obviously using this in their elementary schools. Obviously, as an OT, sometimes I'm like, not everything has to be digital. So, you would, for everybody to have access, maybe you could have this, but then if some people did prefer paper and pencil, you could do it that way too.
So we had a question in the chat about someone's asking the difference between GoGuardian versus ClassKick. I can answer a little bit of that, but chime in if you have it. But as I know, GoGuardian is more for like more monitoring the tools. I don't know if you can work on like the content. Like I know GoGuardian can block distraction or enforce like rules when the kids are playing on the digital format. But ClassKick can do that in addition to also kind of modifying all of the learning materials, right? You can deliver lesson plans on ClassKick. Does that come about? And if anybody in the group has information about either or, please chime in as well.
So I think GoGuardian was like, oh, I can see everybody's screens, right? So I can see if a student got into another screen or they went to YouTube or, they're playing a game. I can see, and get them back into what they're supposed to do. But this is just that other step where, okay, if everybody is doing the same assignment, I can kind of keep my eye on how people are doing, how fast they're doing it, and kind of head it off at the pass to make sure I'm helping somebody. Because I would think if I'm looking at GoGuardian and they're in some other place, it's like, well, clearly there was some reason that they didn't get started on this or they were distracted. So really that's just kind of taking care of getting them back on track, but then how do you continue to give feedback while they're trying to do the task? So.
We had one more question about fun educational apps that recommend specific for AAC. Tell us a little bit more about that question. Is it Julie? Yeah, I'm probably butchering your name. I apologize.
Oh, can I unmute myself or just
Yes,
put it in
please
the
do. Thank you
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah, just like any fun educational apps, specifically like for AAC. Um, so I work with a lot of kids who are autistic. So I just wanted to know if there was anything that you guys recommend for that.
Do you mean like accessing AAC
No,
or
no, like the app itself. Like we already have a device, a dedicated device.
uh, but what would be gap apps that would support using the device?
No, like learning educational games to like make learning fun for kids is my question, I guess. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
And anybody wanna
I was trying to
mention?
listen to that, but I'm just trying to think of like if they're utilizing an AAC tool already, you wouldn't want to be having them use their tool for using for accessing those educational apps. So I think you would just provide them those different, the same kinds of fun and educational apps that we're providing for our other students on apps, but then they would still have their AAC device so that they could talk about it. I I'm not
Yeah.
really
Like say some schools really use Starfall and some schools use
right.
Lexia and things like that. And oftentimes when I was in the school, I would see none of our everybody was using these apps, but our special ed students definitely weren't using them at all. So I would start there with like, hey, let's get them access to what everybody else has access to and see what they do with that.
Thank you.
And there's also, remember the flip kit that I dropped earlier? There are also some, if you're looking for just general, I think maybe you're looking for like general educational apps, right? There are
Yeah.
some ones that were in the AT flip kit that if you want to go explore later, like if you were about reading or literacy, there were some apps there that were in the flip kit as well, math and things like that. So you might want to check that flip kit out and see if it generates some ideas for you, okay?
Perfect. Thank
Um,
you.
then Rudy had a
Yeah.
question about accessibility features on the Class Kick. So Class Kick it's fully supported the text to speech inside Class Kick, but unfortunately the speech to text, it's not an alternative for that is that, students can submit audio instead of text. But so text to speech, yes, speech to text, you kind of have to do a workaround for that one. But great question.
I'm just back to Jaleesa's question. So sorry, now my brain came up with the answer. So there's apps like ABCia that have a lot of different grade level apps and games across all different types of academic areas. That's a big one that is free. And a paid, but it's also free. And then, I think a lot of those kind of things are on the flip kit. There's another one that I'm losing right now, but a similar one where it's like a big web-based platform, and they have all different kinds of games per different types of academic domains. So those are all fun, kind of like if you were to use math manipulatives on a screen, that kind of thing. But check out
Okay.
ABC. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Well, that will kind of slowly wrap up. We have a little bit more time. Does anybody have any questions or thought about what we've talked about so far this year, whether it's kind of the no low tech, environmental design, executive function as a whole, or any of the digital tools that Lisa shared with us? We have some times to kind of share and collaborate. So please feel free to kind of unmute, share your question in the chat. We'd love to hear from you, or even your experience with working with kiddos around executive functioning, and if there are any tools that you use that you love.
Yeah, I could chime in a little bit in that spirit of like low tech. I remember one thing I used to do this. This is pre, everything digital, but I used to make little drawers. Label the drawers like one, two, and three. And so then I'd break down an activity into like, all right, do drawer one, whatever's in drawer one. It could be a warm-up activity, and then their task of what they have to do. Or I used to take a file folder, and cut it into thirds, and then they'd open up the first number one, and they're working on the first half of their worksheet. It was for those kids getting overwhelmed. So those are kind of like low tech type, tools that I used to use.
I love that one.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so powerful.
And
That ties into that environmental design, right? Making the actual stuff manageable for the kiddos so that we can
mhm,
use that mental energy to think about the learning and the tasks instead of, wait, how do I manage this? Or what part did the teacher say? Those are great
mhm,
strategies.
yeah.
When you're
And
working, I'll add when you're working with like maybe, gifted kids or learning disability creative kids in the older grades, I like to try to give them a self questionnaire of how they are rating all those executive functioning so they can see, oh, I kind of, even if now, of course, parents and teachers might disagree and think, well, you actually do have some issues there. But to get the student to kind of understand and answer questions about how they feel about all those different, 8 to 10 executive functionings, and then kind of speak to them about, okay, let's, can we think about how this is happening in the classroom, or let's brainstorm about that. And just getting them to kind of problem solve is always helpful.
Love
Sorry,
it.
Rudy, to cut you off.
Any other questions or thoughts? Please feel free to share. We know this room is filled with lots of experts in this area. So this is a great space to kind of share what's worked for you. What are some things that you're struggling with around this area? Love to kind of use this time to kind of brainstorm together.
anybody wants to share, jump in and cut me off. I don't want to monopolize
No, we
anytime, or
love it,
drop it in the
Rudy.
chat. This is just like a side thought. I came across somebody was talking about the problem with education is that um, it's kind of like an older model in terms of like you have this teacher and this teacher's trying to perform and entertain and like educate all these kids. Um, and then there's, in addition to all the things that they put on the teacher is you got to do this and this and this and this and that oftentimes, so if you talk about executive function, it's a lot of times it's like they're not, it's not a meaningful endeavor, this education that's being provided. So if you can, as an OT, right, connect it back to it's a meaningful thing that they're learning, and then if they have that agency over it. So I like the class kick that you showed because I feel like it almost, because like if you put a kid in front of a game, right, there is no executive functioning problems there. They can play all day. The problem is getting off the game. But if you can kind of gamify education in a sense, so I feel like that class kit kind of does that. It looks like a game. I can write on here. I can play. I can customize it. So I'm curious to see how a student who's struggling with that would take to that. Would they like it? Would they not? Would they get too overstimulated? So, anyways,
Yeah.
those are just thoughts.
I love it. Great insight. But it's really true, right? So much of whatever tools we share, in theory, it should technically land, but we don't know. Each of our kids are so different in the way that they receive the information, experience the tools. So a lot of time when we talk about assistive technology, right, we can share the tools, but until we try it with our students, we don't know what we'll get. And then the other thing is that we ourselves have to play around with the tools, right? Really get really comfortable and make those mistakes and kind of flounder through it to get that sense of it ourselves. And then when we teach it to our students and model it, that also helps. And that's a big thing. Any of the tools that we recommend or things like that, a lot of it is you guys have to play it for yourself. And then when during the teaching process, like model it, talk it out, share aloud what you are thinking. Ooh, that's a great question. That costs. Lisa, do you know the cost off the top of your hand?
No, not off the top of my hand. Just more just like here's stuff that's out there. If you haven't heard about it,
Yeah.
check it out and ask around. I mean, you might ask around and people might be using it that you didn't know of. For instance, in the school district that I found out about this, it was literally just one elementary school because one teacher had asked one principal, "Hey, I would like this." And so that particular school is using it. So I've now learned that, oh yeah, you know what? Totally just different schools in the same school district might be actually using different tools,
Yeah.
all in the agency of the teacher or a few teachers that were like, this is really working and I'm seeing results.
Love it. So love it. So there is a free basic plan, but then, with you paid more plan, it's more feature, and it's about $10 a month for individual teacher subscription. So it's based on a subscription model. All right, as we kind of wrap up for the day, I want to do a quick intentional close. I always like to end our session with bringing it back to action. We've talked about the kind of range of strategies today, from environmental to low tech to digital supports. But the goal isn't to do everything, right? We just want to choose one thing that I see a bunch of us are leaving. I'm going to do a quick feedback survey before you guys leave. If you guys could fill that out, that'd be great. I'm going to drop it in a link and then I'll go back to the inclusive ending. If somebody from the open access team could drop the chat in the thing, I would really appreciate it. But anyway, we have some strategies that we love for you guys to try. If you know how to use the annotation tool, I would love for you to kind of activate that and maybe do a check mark about what you kind of want to do today or bring back to your team. Kind of have a fun little thing to do. If you don't know how to find your annotation tool, it's on the bottom. It says annotate. And then you can click on it and then you can do a check mark or you can share aloud or in the chat. That's other ways to do it. So let's just take a minute to kind of pick what you will share today with your, oh, sorry. So one more time, I erased somebody's, but go ahead and do that. Yeah. Emily, I see you put something wonderful. And if you guys need help accessing, let me know. And while you're working on the intentional close or filling out the feedback kind of provides an opportunity for us to know how we can cater our webinars to you guys. So we always read every single one of them. So please take a minute to fill it out. Jen has graciously, kindly dropped it in. I'll see a couple of people say they're going to try to use a planner, a checklist. Oh, they're going to try the 360 one. I love it. Wonderful. Okay. As always, we love that you guys join us for Inclusive Learning Circle. We have our last one on the principle, the UDL principle of action and expression in May. It's our very last one for the year, so we hope to see you there. You can click on the flyer for registration link. And then, as always, we really appreciate you guys stay connected with us. We are on various social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. And if you have any question, Lisa and myself will stick around. And here's our contact information. Thank you so much, everybody. We're so glad to join us today. And we'll stick around if you have additional questions.